911 was an emergency. What's going on? Who had the knife? What's going on? Is someone hurt?
She's stabbing my mom.
She stabbed your mom?
Yeah. Please, 2518 Chagrin Drive, let us female with stab wounds. Attention.
This is the voice of a girl of 13-year-old Megan Zanella, who is Lisa Nofel's daughter. She was an ordinary girl from an ordinary family with 2 sisters, a loving mother, and a stepfather. However, this 911 call was not a typical one. It was the sound of bewilderment and hopelessness as the quiet existence of this family collapsed with Megan's mother's death. She had been stabbed, but how had things gone so wrong for this close-knit family, and who was holding the knife?
Have you had these type of issues in the past where you just don't remember things?
Like I said, she talked a big game about a lot of things.
From the beginning, it appeared that the scenario had just a jealous daughter and a cuckoo living in the family house. But there was much more to the tale. From a rough upbringing to the peaceful streets of suburbia, who's truly responsible for the tragic murder of a mother? Let's dive deep into the story of Sabrina Zunick. For the family, everything changed on November 12, 2012. They were residing in Willoughby Hills, a charming community outside of Cleveland, Ohio, a tranquil neighborhood. Their lives were rather pleasant. Lisa Nofel worked as a social worker, while Kevin Nofel drove trucks. They shared a home with their 3-year-old Haley and Megan, Lisa's daughter from a previous marriage. Sabrina, an 18-year-old foster daughter who recently became an adult, was also a member of their family. Their home was the picture of suburban serenity, a charming 3-bedroom near the tranquil Chagrin River. The large front yard was perfect for the kids, complete with a trampoline and a wooden playset with a slide. It was clear these children were loved and well cared for. No one could have predicted the dark turn their lives would take. On the 12th evening, Kevin was out working on the road, while Lisa was home with the kids. As usual, Lisa tucked 3-year-old Haley into bed around 10 p.m. It was Haley's routine to come back a few hours later and sleep in Lisa and Kevin's bed. Meanwhile, 13-year-old Megan headed to her room around the same time. 18-year-old Sabrina, having recently turned 18, enjoyed a bit more freedom, staying up later than the others. She worked late into the night of the 12th in the office area, finishing a school project for her British literature class.
We're both upstairs in our rooms. We're separate rooms.
So what happened after she went to bed? Is Lisa still awake, or is Lisa sleeping at this time?
I don't know.
Sabrina was not following the actions of other individuals in the home. Instead, she was listening to music. She continued working on her assignment until after midnight, at which point she walked upstairs and attempted to fall asleep. However, she was having headaches and found it difficult to fall asleep.
After some point in time, you don't know how long it's been, you can't go to bed because you've got a headache, correct?
Sabrina left her room and quietly made her way downstairs to Kevin and Lisa's bedroom. Megan and Haley were already asleep in bed, and Lisa was in her room, sleeping peacefully. Sabrina stood there, taking medication.
You go open up the medicine cabinet, white bottle that says ibuprofen. How many did you take?
3.
You take 3 of those. After you take 3 of them, where do you go from there?
I don't know.
What happened next remains a mystery, but at around 1:15 a.m., 13-year-old Megan was awake by the sounds of a struggle. She rushed into her mom's room and found her foster sister, her mom, and a knife. Lisa had suffered about 178 stab wounds to her head, neck, body, and limbs. She attempted to defend herself, which resulted in defensive wounds, and some of her wounds were intricate ones caused by the knife being twisted. One of these cuts was serious enough to cut off the cord artery on her jaw. This 15-inch convex serrated knife was bent by the force of the blow.
911 was an emergency.
Yeah, she's doing my mom with a knife. Please tell me.
She's doing what to your mom with the knife? You need to take a deep breath for me so I can understand you.
No, I did.
Lisa had flatlined and her veins had collapsed from the blood loss. So at this time, she was already beyond rescuing. Haley, 3 years old, covered herself in the closet, and Sabrina was drenched in her mother's blood. Sabrina was the one with the knife. A local police patrolman was called by dispatch at 1:17 a.m. regarding an attack that was taking place in the quiet neighborhood. When the police pulled into the driveway of the Willoughby Hills home, 13-year-old Megan was still clutching the phone she had used to dial 911 and beseeched him to put an end to the attack taking on in the house behind her. He headed for Lisa and Kevin's room down the hall. When he called for Sabrina to emerge with her hands raised, she did so while crying and covered in blood, holding the murder weapon. She had many minor cuts on her wrists, the back of her neck, and above the knees on her legs. Sabrina was irrational and uncooperative when police spoke with her. Still, it was obvious what had taken place. Megan had witnessed Sabrina attacking their mom, and the physical evidence was all over her. But the burning question remains, why? Why would this seemingly ordinary member of a loving family resort to such horrific violence? What could drive her to attack her caring foster mom with a knife, stabbing her nearly 200 times? Let's talk about Sabrina Zunich. She was the daughter of Mark Zunick and Susan Edwards. They were both from Ohio. Both had a long history of arrests. After admitting guilt to a grand theft in 1984, Susan was imprisoned for 6 months. 6 years later, it was discovered that she had given drugs to several teenagers in Cleveland who were in their 14s and 15s. She was then charged with obstruction of justice, even though her sentence for this offense was postponed since she was pregnant with Sabrina's elder half-sibling at the time. In addition to being charged with many felonies, Sabrina's father Mark was also under investigation for other offenses. He had previously had several arrests for disorderly conduct and driving while intoxicated before Sabrina's birth. A string of violent events in Sabrina's early childhood began when her father was arrested for domestic abuse when she was just 16 months old. Though Susan and Mark were still together, she continued to live apart from her mother in a little Wycliffe house with her father and grandmother. A neighbor said that Mark was regularly drunk and that the police were called to their home frequently. Shockingly, Mark would put alcohol in Sabrina's bottle to make her sleep easier when she was a newborn. In 2006, when Sabrina was 11, these problems became even worse. One day, Mark gives Susan money to buy alcohol, but later accuses her of stealing the money. He then grabbed her by the hair and told her to leave his house and never come back. Police reports describe Mark as a paranoid schizophrenic. Before he passed away in 2012 from what seemed to be a drug overdose, his life was filled with several citations for offenses, including drunk driving and property damage. Sabrina, though, had already left the house by this point. Sabrina's grandma was unable to care for Sabrina alone since Mark had turned into a reckless, inebriated guy. Therefore, as a teenager, Sabrina was moved to Emma KY Receiving Home, a county-run group home, at the age of 14. The house was built with controlled behavior modification in mind. She had a history of anger management problems. Someone who knew her there claimed that she wasn't someone to mess with or someone she loved because she would make me or anybody else pay for the battles she would start at school. Sabrina had been diagnosed with ADHD when she was 4 years old. Many of her issues were co-diagnosed with this and other conditions. Her problems with rage include lying, abusing drugs, seeing voices, and stealing. However, her conduct drastically altered when she moved from the group home to a foster family and changed high schools. She worked hard and focused on her studies at her new school. She attended every appointment on time. At 16, her living conditions were beginning to improve. The Nofel family was her new foster family. As a social worker, Lisa Nofel was used to working with problematic kids. She had specialized training in child safety and understood the need for kindness. She made an effort to show Sabrina the same kindness. When Lisa began her job in 1999, she was already married to someone else. In 2003, this marriage ended in divorce. She first became acquainted with and married Kevin Nofel in 2006. Kevin was also married to a woman passed and got divorced. They also had a child, but at this time he did not live with his first kid, who was born in 1993. After moving into the charming home in 2008, they welcomed Haley into their family in 2009. From the outside, Kevin, Lisa, Megan, Haley, and foster daughter Sabrina seemed like a tight-knit family. They lived together under one roof, appearing to embody the picture of suburban harmony. However, beneath the surface, the dynamics within the Nols household were far from ideal. Despite Sabrina's noticeable improvement in behavior since joining the family, tensions simmered, particularly between her and Lisa. What started as a hopeful foster arrangement quickly turned sour, with the relationship between Lisa and Sabrina deteriorating at an alarming rate. Sabrina confided in a friend that Lisa made her life miserable, describing their arguments as vicious and relentless. She felt that Lisa favored her biological daughters, Megan and Haley, and believed this favoritism was unfair. This perceived bias deepened the divide within the household, effectively splitting the family into two factions: Lisa, Megan and Haley on one side, and Sabrina and Kevin on the other. As Sabrina's relationship with Lisa grew increasingly strained, she found solace in Kevin. Whenever she clashed with Lisa, Kevin was there, offering a sympathetic ear and a shoulder to cry on. Over time, their bond became unusually close, raising eyebrows among those who observed it. Sabrina's friends noticed the odd dynamic between her and Kevin, remarking on their touchy interactions and the unsettling sexual undertones in their jokes. Despite their discomfort, no one sounded the alarm, as the reality of the situation seemed too shocking to be true. The shocking truth was that Kevin had been grooming Sabrina into a secret and highly inappropriate relationship. Sabrina was vulnerable and seeking affection, and was led to believe they were truly in love. However, Kevin made it clear that their relationship had to be hidden from the rest of the family. The secrecy and deception only deepened the emotional and psychological hold he had over her, making the situation even more disturbing and tragic.
How do you get along with Tobin?
Kevin's a miracle. I mean, he's more the one that helps me out, because this has Megan to deal with. Megan has mental instability herself.
Okay.
And so we made agreements a long time ago that if I need anything, that I can go to Kevin.
Whenever Lisa, Megan, and Haley were out, Kevin and Sabrina spent time together, deepening their bond. Sabrina even saved his contact as Kevin Love in her iPod, a telling sign of their increasingly close relationship. By 2012, as their connection grew stronger, the tension between Sabrina and Lisa only worsened. Sabrina harbored deep resentment toward Lisa, especially regarding her separation from 3-year-old Haley, whom Sabrina had grown to feel maternal toward.
What was his relationship to you?
It was when a foster father when needed to be, and when a lover when not being a foster father.
This strained relationship reached a boiling point when Lisa once violently restrained Sabrina, an incident that led Sabrina to report her to the police. However, her complaint did not yield any results. Despite the escalating tension and the chaotic environment at home, Sabrina made a surprising decision in October 2012. After turning 18, she successfully petitioned to remain in the Nols household, choosing to stay even as the atmosphere became increasingly tumultuous. This choice only further complicated the already fraught dynamics within the family, setting the stage for the tragic events that would soon unfold. Sabrina's social worker observed no issues in the home. She was attending her therapy appointments, performing well academically, and passing drug tests. The nightmare to come was nowhere to be found. Before November 12, 2012, there was a decline in Kevin's relationship with his wife. On September 15th, the police were called to the Nols home in response to a domestic call. Kevin and Lisa had argued that night, with the fight centering around their daughter Megan. Lisa accused Kevin of choking Megan, but he insisted that he had only grabbed her by the back of the neck to guide her into her room. By the time the police arrived, the dispute had already ended, and Lisa had left the house. However, Kevin still spoke with the officers, concerned that the incident might be used against him in future divorce proceedings. He had confided in Sabrina, telling her he wanted to divorce Lisa so they could be together, further deepening the twisted and secretive nature of their relationship. He also inquired about the consequences of a divorce between himself and Lisa from Sabrina's social worker, if he could manage to retain Sabrina in his care. Kevin admitted that Lisa thought he was having a relationship with their foster daughter when they were out camping as a family with an old friend, David Strunk. He showed to David pictures of Sabrina that she had purchased him and modeling shots that he had assisted her in putting together. In October 2012, only 1 month before his wife's murder, he was meeting with a divorce lawyer. When the police told Kevin what had happened on the evening of November 12th while he was out at work, he wanted to know about his children and brought them up from the police station right away. The police officers who interacted with Kevin that morning, the morning after his family was horrifically torn apart, recalled him acting strangely calm. One officer said that Kevin was saying he was some kind of EMT before, and he had seen stuff like this numerous times, and I wasn't going to tell him anything that he hadn't seen before, and he wanted to know every detail about what happened. He was frustrated that they wouldn't let him see Sabrina ranting that he was her foster father and needed to see her. In the meantime, Sabrina was being questioned by the police in an attempt to determine why she had killed her foster mother. Sabrina said that she was unaware of her foster mother's passing. She said that after going into Lisa's bedroom to get medicine, she had no memory of anything. Although Sabrina insisted she didn't remember anything, the proof was indisputable.
She's never seen the life of me, and she's been wanting me out of the house.
What's your thoughts on how Lisa is not alive now?
What?
What is your thoughts on that she is not alive?
She didn't kill me.
Sabrina claimed to have no knowledge of her foster mother's death. She said she remembered nothing after entering Lisa's bedroom for medication.
Remember,
When we came to the house, you had the knife in your hand.
Are you sure it wasn't self-defense?
there's always two sides to every story.
After Sabrina was booked and taken to jail, Kevin appeared to move on with his life surprisingly quickly. Almost immediately, he began erasing traces of Lisa from their home. He donated her belongings to Goodwill and even tried to sell her bedroom furniture on Craigslist. It was as if he was in a hurry to wipe away any memory of her. Kevin also asked a friend, David, to shut down Lisa's social media accounts, claiming he couldn't handle the flood of messages. To outsiders, it seemed like he was simply trying to cope, but the speed and decisiveness of his actions raised eyebrows. The question lingered. Was this just a man grieving in his way, or was there something more sinister behind his need to erase Lisa's presence from his life? The timing of it all was unsettling, leaving everyone wondering what Kevin was really up to. Just 5 days after his wife's death, on November 17th, Kevin hired a cleaning company to scrub the scene of the murder. His demeanor was described as cold and matter-of-fact. He made it clear that money was no object, mentioning that he had a $250,000 life insurance policy. But what wasn't immediately apparent was that this wasn't the only life insurance policy Kevin held. After the murder, Kevin made a startling comment to one of Lisa's coworkers, casually remarking that her $50,000 salary was a lot of makeup. But in the weeks that followed, he successfully handled it using a variety of insurance plans from both private insurance providers and his work. Kevin was able to obtain around $785,000, which he utilized right away. He purchased himself new automobiles, took flying lessons, paid off their previously repossessed property, and added a swimming pool. While Sabrina was incarcerated awaiting trial for the death of his wife, he was enjoying a newly comfortable life. But after 9 months, Kevin's situation changed. After becoming weary of being the victim, Sabrina revealed her relationship with Kevin to the authorities. She also revealed to them the truth about Kevin's statement to her that Lisa needed to die.
Why did you do that?
Because I was doing what I was told to do.
Throughout their illicit relationship, Kevin had repeatedly told Sabrina that he wanted to divorce Lisa so they could be together. He painted a picture of a future where they would start a new life, free from the constraints of his marriage. However, in September 2012, Kevin revealed fear that a divorce would lead to him losing custody of the girls, including his biological daughter, Haley. This fear gnawed at him, and it became clear that simply ending the marriage wasn't an option in his mind. During one of their secret conversations, Kevin disclosed to Sabrina the existence of multiple life insurance policies on Lisa, totaling nearly $800,000. He coldly remarked that Lisa was worth more dead than alive financially. Kevin suggested that if Lisa were gone, they could finally be together without fear and even start their own family. The two started formulating ideas to kill Lisa. They spoke with one of Sabrina's high school friends, Autumn Pavic, in the car en route to a Chinese buffet. They talked about the possibility of Autumn's friend doing a hit on Lisa. Nothing more came of this idea once Autumn left for California in October, but Sabrina and Kevin persisted. In early November, Kevin tells Sabrina that they will use a gun and pillows to kill Lisa. After Lisa was shot by Sabrina, Kevin would dispose of the gun.
Then it went to, let's use a gun. The plan was he was going to say he's going to drop me off at the roller rink, and I was going to go to the shooting range with him. Lisa said, why don't you ever do anything with me anymore? And so that didn't happen.
As usual, Kevin was taking Sabrina to school on the morning of the murder. However, this time he stopped the car on the road and started to become angry. He talked of a battle he had with Lisa, one that became so nasty that he shouted, "If she's not dead, I'm going to kill myself." Because of her love for him, Sabrina decided to murder Lisa as soon as she could. They had a strategy in place for how the stabbing would go. If Lisa lies on her side, Sabrina will stab her in the back. If she lies on her back, then Sabrina will stab her in the throat. Since Haley frequently entered Lisa's room in the middle of the night, the attack would need to occur during the night while Lisa was asleep. Key to the plan was this: if someone caught Sabrina, her defense would be insanity. She pretended to be ignorant throughout her police interrogation because of this. She said she didn't recall the attack because she believed, as Kevin had said, that it would grant her the defense of insanity.
What if I go to prison? And he said, you'll only do 25, and I'll get you lawyers, and I'll make sure that you're taken care of.
Kevin says to Sabrina, what if I go to jail now? You'll only do 25, and I'll get you lawyers, and I'll make sure you're taken care of. Just 9 months later, Kevin still hadn't set up Sabrina's legal defense, and her claim of insanity was failing. When she became aware that she had been duped, she went to the prosecutors and requested a plea agreement. She would provide them with all of Kevin's actions and assist them in their inquiry. Kevin's dream getaway started to unravel. When the police got in touch with Autumn Pavic, she assisted them by contacting Kevin and luring him into telling them about the hitman. They took a record of the interaction.
And the only thing that I'm worried about is that whole hitman thing.
In this conversation, Kevin didn't admit to any wrongdoing, and despite extensive efforts by law enforcement, various search warrants executed on his house, vehicles, and electronic devices failed to uncover any incriminating evidence. Investigators combed through every aspect of his life, hoping to find something that would tie him to the horrific crime, but their searches came up empty. However, it was Sabrina's powerful testimony that tipped the scales. Her account of their twisted relationship and Kevin's involvement in the murder was compelling enough to push the case forward. In August 2013, Kevin was arrested and charged with complicity to commit aggravated murder and sexual battery. After entering a guilty plea to aggravated murder, Sabrina was given a life sentence without the possibility of parole for 30 years, which would expire in 2042 when she would be 47 years old. Nonetheless, Kevin entered a not guilty plea, claiming that there was insufficient proof of his liaison with Sabrina or his scheme to murder his spouse. Sabrina was a detrimental young lady with a history of substance misuse and untrustworthy behavior, so it was only her word. But because of this, it was even more terrifying to see how he had used her youth, instability, and vulnerability. Kevin was found guilty on all charges on June 11, 2014. He received sentences of 2 years in jail for each of the 6 sexual battery convictions and life in prison with the possibility of release after serving 30 years consecutively for involvement in aggravated murder. What are your thoughts on this unsettling story? Who do you think is really at fault? Drop your opinions in the comments below. Stay safe, keep up with our channel, and we'll catch you in the next video.